Hello, my name is Lauren.
And I'm Kai, and welcome to the Theoretical YouTube channel.
And today we're going to explore the expanded universe that you never thought existed, the Sensational 6 EU.
The Sensational Six refers to the group of Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, and Pluto. And if you want to know more about them, you can click the card right here.
So besides the main six, there are other Disney characters who live in the same world.
So this video is about the villain Pete.
Pete was introduced to the franchise in 1925, 3 years before the first appearance of Mickey Mouse. This also makes him the longest lasting and still reoccurring character in the Disney repertoire.
Despite Pete's general perception as Mickey's arch-nemesis, he originally appeared in the Alice comics as a villain during the episode called Alice Solves the Puzzle.
He was also referred to sometimes as Bootleg Pete, and this was also the first time he had been shown with a peg leg, giving him his other nickname, Pegleg Pete.
In 1927, Pete was introduced as an antagonist for Oswald the Rabbit in an episode called The Ocean Hop.
A year later, Pete was matched up against Mickey in The Galloping Gaucho and eventually Steamboat Willie. This is where he started to look more like a cat instead of his previous bear-like appearance.
Pete's rivalry with Mickey has developed on many levels. He can appear as a thug or a police officer, depending on Mickey's nature in the short.
His role always depends on what the plot wants to highlight about Mickey, whether Mickey's acting as a law-abiding citizen or a rebel. Either way, Pete is his exact opposite.
His peg leg was lost after 1935 in a short called Mickey's Service Station, as the animators continued to refine his image.
Pete was actually the first villain the Disney company ever created, and he is still their example of a go-to nuisance or nemesis.
He's also a vessel of the worst attributes of society. He appears greedy and cruel, he smokes and lies, cheats and gambles, and he also enjoys drawing attention to himself and stealing.
On the notion of theft, Pete is also recorded to have occasionally stolen Minnie. In this case, Mickey's heroic motivation stemmed from getting his girlfriend back, much like Mario and Bowser's relationship.
Donald Duck's rise to popularity pushed Mickey out of the spotlight, but it couldn't do the same for Pete.
But while Pete and Mickey's relationship seemed to be on mostly equal footing, Donald was Pete's lesser opponent. Pete could be seen physically abusing Donald, causing him to react in fear most of the time.
This relationship between the characters is still true today whenever they come in contact in the universe.
In 1983, Pete made one of his most famous roles as the Ghost of Christmas Future in Mickey's A Christmas Carol. The villainous nature of Pete's time casting is pretty much epitomized in this role.
Pete continued his role as a selfish jerk in a few episodes of the DuckTales, but he was the main antagonist in The Goof Troop.
Goof Troop was a 90s television series about the Goof family, being Goofy and his son Max. Pete and his family were their next-door neighbors, similarly to their roles in the Goofy movies.
Wait, Pete has a canon family?
Why, yes he does. He has a wife named Peg and two children, PJ, Pete Jr., and a daughter named Pistol.
I'm sorry, did you just say Pistol?
Pistol was a reference to another early nickname for Pete, being Pistol Pete. She was kind of a psychotic brat.
Her main role was getting into trouble and having her older brother and Max help her get out of it. PJ is actually more of an interesting character in regards to his relationships with his father.
While Pete absolutely adored his daughter, he seemed to have some old-fashioned ideas about how to raise his son. This was probably to foil the relationship between Goofy and Max.
Either way, PJ has a pretty low self-esteem and tries to please his harsh father, but never seems to live up to his expectations.
As we already mentioned, Pete is the opposite of Goofy, who is kind and clumsy, whereas Pete is blunt and greedy, albeit more successful.
In both Goof Troop and the Goofy movie, Pete causes conflict due to his conflicting personality and ideas with his friend Goofy. However, in these cases, Pete is not really a villain so much as a jerk with an ego.
Well, I mean, he was a used car dealer.
Back to general TV appearances, Pete is a character on Mickey's House of Mouse and in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Okay, so for obvious reasons, Pete's character was dumbed down for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. However, certain aspects of his personality did remain.
For instance, he's still greedy and manipulative, as well as maintaining a villainous role in the universe.
However, he seems to be on better terms with the Sensational Six, and they even admit sometimes that they regard him as sort of a friend. Although, if you ask me, he's a pretty bad friend.
In the recent shorts, Pete is again a reoccurring antagonist who has started to regain some of his more violent tendencies.
He also got his pig leg back, which means either there was another tragic accident or that miracle cure did not work out so well.
More likely it's just the Disney Corporation returning to its roots of the series, as it does with several other aspects like the more vulgar nature, 2D animation, and sporadic concepts that don't follow any time or consistency.
Actually, in 1941, Mickey Mouse comic writer Floyd Gottfredson addressed the disappearing peg leg with the explanation that Pete got a more realistic prosthetic.
Huh, so I guess he just lost it.
In video game adaptations, Pete plays a major role in both the Kingdom Hearts and Epic Mickey franchises.
Oddly enough, in the Disney parks, rarely does Pete make an appearance despite his major role.
So overall, Pete is a Disney character with no dynamic contrast over the years.
Since the 1920s, he's been a villain to rival the best, and he's still going almost a century later.
But more importantly, what did you think of this video?
Did you learn anything? Do you have other ideas for future characters to explore?
If you answered yes to either of these questions, why don't you tell us about it in the comments section below? And while you're down there, please hit the like and subscribe buttons.
And from two Disney nerds to the rest of you,
thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Whose lonely grave is this?